I love these wood chip paths now. And finally over here in the ever-growing fruit orchard. I knew this was going to make a big impact on how things grew over here, but I just didn't know how much. So we're talking about raspberry canes that are, here we're at 6 feet now, 7-foot long raspberry canes that grew out, probably didn't start growing out until July. And yeah, the raspberry canes here, it's a little forest in the making. Again, more weeds. I didn't really, gotta go back and pick some of that stuff out. But for the most part, all the leaf mulch I put down has worked and has pretty much allowed this garden to flourish. Like all the rhubarb here is still green and leafy. Definitely won't be harvesting any of that. It's just time to let it go dormant. But this row right here along the edge, which didn't get covered, there are no rhubarb here at all because they're just, the grass competition just wiped it all out. And then when you compare that, the raspberries from in the mulched garden to the little tiny raspberry plants here, and I'm kneeling down, this is maybe 2 feet tall. With all this grass and weed competition, they're just struggling in here. So I'm definitely going to finish covering and smothering the grass down here, and we're going to get this fruit orchard done, hopefully this year. I've already made a good start over there. I'm out here in the garden and I'm looking at the, well, it's the beginning of November, well into fall, and a lot of the stuff here is pretty much gone. A lot of bare spots in there, but you still get your brassicas, you still got carrots and parsnips and all that fun stuff, green onions, and all the herbs in the back there. But I was thinking about this garden and I'm like, this is literally money in the bank here. Money in the bank. This is an investment. This is an investment of my health. This is an investment in my wealth. This is food I don't have to buy. And yeah, I know we're all feeling the pinch right now. Yeah, it's happening. And I'm just thinking, wow, I am so glad I got this garden set up and going and producing food. And the land, literally, this is just wood chip, piles of leaves, some compost, coffee grounds. And this is now a food producing machine that is appreciating exponentially in value. This is, my income here is 100% mine. I get 100% of my time and effort, of the value of my time and effort. And that's a pretty good feeling to know that what I spend, the time I spend in here, I mean, again, that's just money in the bank, wealth in my back pocket, food for days. So yeah, I just wanted to share that and just, it's my perspective on things right now. And I'm just really appreciative of the time and effort that I put into this and going, wow, good call. So now I'm back out here and we're in the fruit orchard. And yeah, finally got her done. I finally covered and smothered this whole area, laid out my cardboard over the grass, just mowed it right down to the ground, and looks pretty bare with a bunch of sticks sticking out there, but of course it's the end of the growing season, so there's really, all you're going to see is a bunch of sticks. Oh, this is so nice and fluffy to walk on. But it's just interesting to now see the growth of the raspberry canes here, which, yeah, these things are like 7 feet tall. They're huge. They're huge. And over here where I had another patch of raspberries, but they had weed growth, grass, and they were smothering the raspberries, and I think I mowed over a couple over there because I couldn't even see them. And yeah, these aren't doing so great. So hopefully next year these will start catching up and produce some decent fruit. Here's another interesting plant here called loganberry, and flavors it's a bramble, and the flavor is kind of like a cross between your blackberry raspberry, and it's pretty interesting. But my, look at the canes. These are 10-foot long canes from this plant coming all the way out here, and I've got canes growing over into the blackberries, and then of course these canes coming way out over here. So this thing has like a 20-foot spread so far from that one loganberry. So yeah, I'm happy I got that one. Oh yeah, there's another couple of canes coming out around there too. Pretty big plant. I'm probably going to have to get some sort of support structure for this thing. And of course the blackberries. These started as 2 tiny little plants, and they've pretty much exploded over the area. It's now a giant patch, 10-foot by 10-foot patch from 2 little plants, about 2 years ago planted. Pretty good. And I'm pretty much done in this area. I did let the mulch thin out a little bit, and of course right next to the plants that I had, some of the weeds have taken hold, and they're going to try and take advantage of this, but I'm going to just go through and rip some of this stuff out, and should be good to go. Should be good to go. Hello everyone, just out here back in the fruit orchard, and I was doing a little bit of weeding. I know, no-till, you're not supposed to have weeds, but I'm dealing with perennial weeds, and sometimes they have a root system that can take up to 2 years before they finally die off, and you can get on with having a weed-free garden. So I've just recently covered that area. It's just grass that's been covered with cardboard, topped with leaves, and then around all the existing fruit bushes and stuff, I'm going to put just dump a couple shovelfuls of compost on top of that, and that will feed the soil over the winter, and the plants will have a good healthy start in the spring. So this year, this is fall, and earlier in the spring I did this area. Basically I did the same thing. Is I had covered everything with cardboard, dumped a bunch of leaves over top, shredded, and just piled compost around the trees and bushes here. And well, you got to say most of the leaves have broken down, leaving the cardboard, and the cardboard generally takes 2 years to break down. The leaves generally about 1 year to break down. But that's why I like using cardboard, is because if it lasts 2 years and the perennial root systems of these weeds lasts 2 years, that should be good enough to block most of the weeds from popping up through and ruining your nice no-till garden. But I was going through here and just noticing, again, you've probably seen this before if you had seen my comparison of a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year no-till bed, but all the holes in here in the leaf mulch that I just kind of scraped away, and these are all holes made by worms as they come up and they eat the sludgy cardboard and decomposing leaf material. And what they do is they just make this wonderful crumbly structure here, nice friable soil that sticks together, crumbles apart. That's worm castings. That's worm castings all through here. And so you may see people who like to use worm farms or worm bins and stuff like that, and to make worm castings. And then you've got to deal with, well, first of all, housing the worms, then you've got to feed them, and then you've got to deal with the sludge, and then you have the compost from wherever you're keeping them, you've got to bring it out here. Well, seriously, in a no-till garden, this whole area, this is going to be 40 by 50 feet, is one giant worm bin, creating worm castings. So yeah, just walking through here. I know I'm walking on one of the paths, so I don't really care about breaking it down a little bit, but
You know, even say right here, all that crumbly structure, and this is exposed now. All the leaves and the cardboard are broken up, and I'm going to cover all this area with some more leaves. But this is all aggregates done by the worms. This is sand here, and this is sand that's being held together from worm castings, and I can crumble that apart. That's just a beautiful soil structure in there.
and so that is the power of no-dig sheet mulching gardens. And so once I get through the rest of this garden here and finish pulling out the last of the stubborn weed roots so that they will not darken my doorstep again, I should have pretty much a weed-free garden in here. Nice little strawberry patch in here, just from a couple plants spaced a foot apart, and they just took over this area. But again, they love just running through all the mulch and popping up everywhere. Yeah, this no-dig system works a treat. Tons of worm castings, very few weeds, and the last few perennial weeds that are through here, I'm going to be getting rid of them. Mostly they're right along the edge between the grass and the garden, and eventually I'm just going to get rid of all the grassy areas in between the beds so that I don't have to deal with all the grass and sorrel and vetch roots coming in underneath into the garden and popping up in the middle of the garden, and I'm going to get rid of all those. So yeah, that's just another project for another time. I don't have to do that just yet, but I want to get that taken care of soon. So you can see what happens over here.
I put in the sheet mulching, but then after the sheet mulching and after the roots had been fed and the cardboard had already broken down, I then decided to put in a physical barrier separating the lawn from the garden. But it was already too late because the roots were still alive, the roots were still healthy, the smother cover barrier had been broken down, and they just popped right up through. This is all sheep sorrel. Great chicken food, but I don't want it in the annual garden. I am going to put that in its own little space so that the chickens will have their own little garden area for themselves. So yeah, I got to take care of that. There's some over there too. But that was my bad. I didn't do things in the right order. So yeah, if you're going to do this no-dig, definitely put in a barrier first, then do your cover, then do your smother layer, and then wherever you're going to put your plants, you can dump some compost on top, and yeah, should be all set. But yeah, gotta love to have a whole army of worms doing work for you for free.